Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here is your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning and welcome back to another Sunday, or welcome for the first time if you're joining us for Faith in Our Hometown. This is our Sunday morning conversation about things that matter to us as people, and especially as people of faith here in the greater Joplin area. Many of us, especially because of the fact that we've been involved in so many conflicts across the globe recently, are aware that we have veterans living in our midst, and we sometimes don't even know what to do to help some of those folks when they come back among us. And so my guests this morning are going to be Ted and Amy Donaldson, who are the directors of Compass Quest Veterans Advocacy Group. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what we might do in order to help our brothers and sisters who come out of combat situations, who come home from the military, and what we might be able to do to make their re-entry back among us a little bit more pleasant and an engaging thing for all of us in our community. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle in, and we're going to be right back to talk about veterans affairs and advocacy.
I was in shock, and in denial, and I couldn't believe it was me. I was healthy, feeling well, but unbeknownst to me, after the colonoscopy, I found out that I had colon cancer. My name is Mario Guerrero. I'm an ethicist. I help people that are in a hospital and the medical staff process some of the difficult situations. In this case, it was the other way around.
Well, I'm glad they caught it earlier.
On my 50th birthday, I had a regular checkup. I wasn't concerned because I felt well. No family history of this type of cancer, and yet I developed this type of cancer. During the process of the colonoscopy, they were able to remove that polyp. And having that done within the hospital setting, they can just address all the issues right there and then. I'm a great believer in early detection. This is such a silent disease, and you really don't necessarily have symptoms. Go get checked. Follow up with your physician. Don't wait.
Well, again, thank you for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. Again, as I mentioned earlier, my guests are Ted and Amy Donaldson, who are here with us from Compass Quest Veterans Advocacy Group. And so first, before we get talking about our issues this morning, Ted and Amy, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. My name's Ted Donaldson. Amy and I moved here about 7 years ago from San Antonio, Texas. We're both prior military. We both flew for the Air Force. And when we got here, we wanted to do something to help this community, and we thought what better way than to reach out to fellow veterans and see what we can do to help them. And we started Compass Quest.
Wonderful. How about you, Amy? Just same thing, same story, huh?
Yep. I think in trying to find our way, we looked for people with like minds. And that hadn't been started yet here.
Well, and I'm glad. Now, one of the things that has happened recently here in Joplin, of course, is we've opened up the new Veterans, Advocacy Center. Or what are we actually calling it?
It's called the Community-Based Outpatient Clinic.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. And so with that, we're already in a little better position than we were. Okay, so first of all, what are they doing a little bit, since I know you've worked with that group a little bit? Explain a little bit about what they're doing at that particular clinic, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you guys do specifically as kind of like even an extra added layer beyond that.
Sure. So that's a Department of Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic. They're going to have primary care there, mental health lab, some small or minor x-ray programs, and I think peer support type activities. So they are going to offer some of the basic services that are necessary for a veterans clinic, and they are a product of splitting services at Mount Vernon. At the clinic there were separated between Joplin and a new clinic that was opened in Springfield also.
Which is great.
The clinic in Springfield opened a couple months ago. Joplin opened this week.
Which is wonderful. So at any rate, when we are talking about those clinics, it means that like many of our veterans now won't have to travel so far and take the whole day to get to, wherever they were going. Because I've got folks, I know in my place that will travel to, even farther than Mount Vernon or whatever, and now they're going to be able to maybe get some of those same services, right here in our hometown. Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
And Springfield as well.
Yeah, and it's great to have that capability in our community because of not only are we looking at Southwest Missouri, but we're also looking at Southeast Kansas and Northeast Oklahoma.
Right.
So the veteran population that's going to be served is actually pretty significant. And it will make it a lot easier for some veterans in the Southwest Missouri area as far as the travel time and stuff.
Yeah. Now, is Mount Vernon going to stay open as well, or
No.
that one's actually closing? Okay, because I know one of my wicked stepbrothers, one of my priests, was chaplain there for years and years and years and years. Now he hasn't been in Mount Vernon for a long time, but I mean for like 20 some odd years, he was he was kind of like one of the resident folks that helped take care of some of that population that was there. So just now going to be Springfield and Joplin. So that's good news, I think, for the folks here. I'll have a little compassion for some of the veterans that are in the Mount Vernon area, because now they're going to have to travel, unfortunately, for them. So you guys aren't necessarily technically involved with that, but you work with a lot of the same population, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what is it that Compass Quest Veterans Advocacy Group does?
Well, we do a lot of different things, and you know, to keep on the theme of the VA, we are intricately involved with a lot of different organizations in the Joplin area. When we started Compass Quest, one of the things that we wanted to do was get connected with a lot of different services, so when somebody comes to us looking for help, we can refer them into the right organization or business or
get them to
whatever.
where they can get help, right?
And we started a program called Joining Community Forces Council that's been going on for 4 years now. We meet once a quarter, and we just had our last meeting, and at that meeting we had about 30 different organizations represented there. And one of the organizations we've had this long-lasting relationship with is Spiva Center for the Arts. When we began Compass Quest, one of our ideas was, let's do some kind of alternative therapy for people that are struggling with issues. And Amy had picked up art as a form of therapy for her, and so she was teaching art therapy. And we did it on our own for a couple of years as complete novices. Yeah. Fortunately, we had done one of our programs and we had some media coverage, and the next day the director of Spiva called us and said, we want to help you do your veteran art therapy program. And now for 2 years it's just been a blast. It's been amazing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you know, I love the fact that, first of all, you jumped in there and tried, you know, because it was helpful for you. Yeah, it was fun. But it's nice when you have, you know, sometimes the people got a little bit more training and all that kind of good stuff, and they join. And that's one of the things I got to say I love about this area, and I've loved it now. You know, I've been here 12 years myself, almost 13. But I love the fact that you know, when somebody starts to hear something like that and they realize that they can help, that they reach out and to do that, you know. And so I love the fact that, you know, that Spiva's just like suddenly say, hey, wait, we can help with this part of that whole thing.
It was so wonderful. God definitely, well, he rules our lives, so sometimes he smacks us back and forth and says, why do you? So
he gets my attention.
Yeah. It was funny because I was never artistic. I had never taken an art class. I can't sing.
Yeah.
Just nothing artistic. And so I never would have imagined that painting would have calmed down my restless spirit that I was dealing with. And it was a very, very dark place that I was in. Yeah. And the 2 hours that I was painting, I had peace. Ah. And when you're amped up for so long and you hear all these voices in your head constantly, a little bit of peace is shocking. Mm-hmm. And, you know, something so far outside the box of something I enjoy. Yeah. So that's why it was a hoot. I said, Ted, I've never done this before. And he goes, you know, I had picked up writing therapy when my boys were younger. Mm-hmm. And so that was the basis of how we started Compass Quest.
Which is wonderful.
We actually had 3 components to the beginning of Compass Quest. We had writing therapy, which I kind of led, the art therapy, which Amy led, and then we had a ministry that God led. And so we felt called by God to do this ministry. When we moved to Joplin, we didn't have jobs. We didn't know what we were going to do. And we said, how are we going to fit in? And Joplin had just experienced the tornado. It happened in 2011. We moved here in 2012. And we thought, you know, there are probably a lot of veterans in this community that are struggling with issues, not only from their military service, but also from the tornado. We know faith is major in our recovery, and also we have this art and writing therapy. Why don't we combine those? And that's how we started Compass Quest through our church. And then from there it just exploded. I mean, we had people calling us left and right saying we want to come out and be a part of this.
Well, I have become, I think I'm gonna speak for the community at large. I don't think that 7 years ago we really had as many people, first of all, who were coming home from the military, and we also were kind of ignorant about what had happened to them, or some of the things that happened to some of them while they were in the military. And so we had no clue that some of our brothers and sisters that were returning home were hurting in the way that they were hurting. And I think we've become a little bit smarter about that. I still don't say that I ever know what somebody's experienced until they start telling it to me, because each story I've ever heard is so different. But I understand why some of that stuff leaves marks. And listening to people when they start sharing their stories, I'm always very humbled when they take the opportunity to share those with me. And I just think it's great that that we are smarter about it these days. Because I think 7 years ago we just didn't have a clue.
You hit the nail on the head. We moved here from San Antonio, Military City, USA.
Yeah.
You can't turn without seeing 5 veterans.
Yeah.
And our family served, and all of our families worked for the bases. And it's a different environment down there. When we came here, I said, nobody wears their hats. Ted and I always wore our wings on our hats.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things we look for. Some people fly, some people don't.
Sure.
And I always look for people with wings because that's like-minded for me.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see very many older gentlemen in hats. My dad was a Marine vet from Vietnam. He always wore his hat. And so it was almost like we needed to make it okay for them to come out.
And to be veterans, yeah.
Yeah, and we knew there was a large veteran population in the community, and there were several veteran service organizations, but none of them were talking to one another. None of them were sharing this, and that was one of our goals: was let's get all these guys connected and start working together.
Well, and I'll speak from I know that Catholic Charities wound up being one of the people getting a grant to actually help and assist veterans, but and it came out in their research and in their experience. Again, post-tornado, Catholic Charities existed 1 week before the tornado.
Wow.
We didn't even have a Catholic Charities prior to that, and only because of what happened the week of, suddenly we were, jump-started beyond what we would have ever wanted to be jump-started beyond. But what they discovered in doing the work in recovery and post-tornado and all those other things was that a lot of our brothers and sisters, again, who were veterans, were kind of falling through the cracks. And so it was like, okay, well, when that began to be one of those things that they kept discovering on their intakes, that was when they said, hey, we're going to have to do something here and see what we can do to assist, again, some of the folks in the area.
And your rep from the SSVF program, the Supportive Services for Veterans Families, Paula, came to our last JCF meeting.
Yeah.
So we've been intricately connected with Catholic Charities for several years.
Yeah,
It's been
well,
amazing.
That's a good thing.
It's been great.
It's a good thing. Well, again, my guests this morning are Ted and Amy Donaldson, who are the directors of Compass Quest Veterans Advocacy Group. I'm having a hard time talking this morning. But we're going to be right back after a quick break. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the specific work that Compass Quest does. So refresh your coffee, take a little stretch, but come right on back as we're back after a quick break.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service of Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So again, I know we didn't give you much time, but we're back with Ted and Amy Donaldson of Compass Quest. So you guys do several programs, okay, in terms of services. And I was looking down the list, and I don't even know where to start. But why don't you talk about the ones that you're most excited about? Now, one I do want to talk about a little bit, especially in terms of our show, is the Celebrate Recovery. One that you gave me the one brochure for, because I'm a little fascinated by that. So just talk about what you want to talk about.
Sure. You're right. We do a lot of different programs, and two of them that I'm really excited about are our collaboration with the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce called Welcome Home to Joplin, and that involves the chamber, the city, a lot of different businesses and several organizations and Compass Quest. And our goal is to help transitioning military and their families take a look at Joplin as a community in their decision process of transitioning out of the military. And so about a year and a half ago, Rob O'Brien, who was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, approached us about helping him get this program off the ground. You know, low unemployment, it's hard to find good talent, and so we came together and we decided, why don't we reach out to some of the military bases and see if we can't attract some of those transitioning military to come and take a look at Joplin. And so we brought in experts from, you know, obviously all the industry around, but also the housing, the tourism, the hospitals, the schools, and real estate. And we put together a great website, a great package of collateral information, and we go visit military bases during their career and transition fairs. And we talk to military people about Joplin as a community. And we have received so much positive feedback about that because no other community is doing this as a community. There are a lot of businesses that go to try and recruit military, but there are no communities that are doing it, and we're doing it, and it's being very well received. And our next trip is going to be in Kentucky at one of the bases out there, and at Fort Campbell. And that's going to be a huge transition career fair out there.
Well, and again, I mentioned it earlier. I think that's one of the things that our community is actually very strong in, and that once we become aware of something, once we see something, you know, everybody just says, well, let's go and, you know, let's see what we can do there. Let's see what we can make a difference there. Definitely. And I mean, I know that personally, I mean, we've gotten some great parishioners of people who came out of the military and were made offers by local businesses, and you know, we got some great people in our parish, you know, that have just come from the military and, you know, and kind of settled here, and several again that had no prior connections to Joplin. I expect the ones that are our families to come home, but it's kind of nice that you're making a home for those other folks that might be transitioning otherwise, which is great.
Well, you know, for us coming here was a transition for us. We didn't have a real connection to come here, but we felt drawn to be here. And there's a lot to be said about the Joplin area. You know, location is kind of key. I think as, you know, middle-aged and older people, you realize that, you know, sometimes living on the coast is not, well, all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes living at a crossroads is a better place, and this has really kind of worked out for us.
Yeah, I like that language, that we're a crossroads state, rather than a flyover state.
Exactly.
I don't like that flyover thing. I like that, but
Yeah.
no offense to the pilots, okay? But I'm just saying, I like it better to think of us in terms of a crossroads. I think that's great. Yeah.
It really is.
Amy, how about you? What are some of the programs that you're excited about that Compass Quest is involved in?
Oh, I'm excited about everything. People wonder why
Well,
I'm
pick
always.
one then.
Why am I so happy? I have no idea. So the main program that I work with is the Veterans Treatment Court in Jasper County.
Okay.
I've never worked with. I've never really worked with people. I've always been on the administrative side or the computer side, and when I was in the military, I took care of the cargo and the passengers, but I just told them to sit down, you know. This is more of an interaction with people, people who had served in the military and have found themselves not able to transition back to normal. Young ones, older ones. We have one gentleman, I think he's 75. We had one young man that wasn't even 19, I think.
Yeah. So you run the gamut, yeah?
What was so amazing was every single person that we've dealt with in this court's life has changed. Their heart has shown and opened. They have picked up serving their man again.
Yeah.
And what we found the major component is, where the success is they are partnered with a veteran mentor.
Okay.
So let's say I have an alcohol issue, and I obviously have to lie to my family about my drinking. You wind up learning how to do that. You lie to yourself, you lie to your family. But you can't lie to somebody that's a battle buddy. When you're in combat, no matter how broken you are still there next to that person. So that's where the successes come. And these people lives have become new again. One gentleman, I think, was around my age, 40. I think he served when he was very young. He said he didn't recall a time that he wasn't on drugs. And he came into the court, and I remember the judge said, I remember this gentleman from when he was, the judge was a prosecutor, you know.
Uh-huh.
So the guy was known in town. And for this guy's graduation from Veterans Court, we came over to Joplin and asked the chief of police and the assistant chief of police to come over for their graduation, because this guy's changed in his life. You know, he's a part of the community now.
Not a problem to the community.
Not a problem to the community.
Not a problem to the community, but actually a success and a contributor to the community, which is what a treatment court is supposed to do. I mean, I don't know whether everybody's familiar with what treatment courts, but basically these would be veterans, obviously, who get themselves in trouble, and you partner with the judge and with the legal teams and try to make sure that the people are, first of all, correcting their behavior and not causing the trouble that got them into court in the first place. But at the same time, when you manage to partner those folks up, you know, and this is, I'm going to say this in terms of, I mean, you know, sometimes we can try or make attempts or throw a program at something and we don't get any results. Correct. But obviously, you guys have been getting some results in some of this, in terms of this treatment court, and Joplin's better off, our society's better off, these men and women are better off, and everybody wins, which is a blessing, you know, which is exactly what we would all want. We want it for our juvenile offenders too. So we want it for anybody who's got a problem. How we help them to do that, which is good.
And the court, this particular treatment court, not only does it have the veteran mentor component, but it also has mental health. It has substance abuse, and then it also has the Veterans Justice Outreach Coordinator from the VA. So the VA is actually involved in this. And Ozark Center does a lot of the mental health treatment for them. And Ozark Center has been a great partner with us from the very beginning.
Yeah.
They recognize that we were serving a very specific population in the community, and they wanted to be able to help us do that. And we've had an office with them for 4 years now. It's just been amazing. But they're a part of that. We really can measure the success by how many people are graduating from the program, and right now it's greater than 90%, which is better than the state average on that.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I do want to talk a little bit, but she handed me this. I had a chance to glance at it a little bit before we got started. But kind of from a faith perspective, you've also got this Celebrate Recovery thing going. Yeah. So
right.
talk a little bit about that, because this kind of fascinates me.
And that's not a Compass Quest program, but we work with so many different organizations around, and we felt like this is a good organization for more people to become aware of. St. Paul's United Methodist Church in Carl Junction is running this program. A good friend of ours and fellow veteran, Rick Flynn, is running the program, Celebrate Recovery, and it's focused around those veterans and military that are having issues where something like this would benefit them. And there are a lot of Celebrate Recovery classes in different churches around the community. This one's focused on the veterans in the community, and so it gives veterans, you know, one of the things that we learn as veterans is we can depend on fellow veterans to be there for us, just like Amy was saying. So when you put us together in a group somewhere, we're all going to work together to accomplish a goal or a mission. The hardest thing for people separating and transitioning from the military is finding purpose and getting over those moral injuries that they may have suffered in their military service. And so coming together with a fellow veteran or a group of fellow veterans, you have a better chance of success. And that's one of the things that Celebrate Recovery does. That's one of the things that Compass Quest does. And we work with all the veteran service organizations around here, and we highly encourage veterans to be members of one of the veteran service organizations, because when you throw camaraderie and teamwork and just friendship together and fellowship together, it can make a big difference.
Sure. I do want to make sure that we notice our lovely little guest down here. There's Mitchell down there, who's been, and he is a service animal.
He is a certified service dog. He is my second service dog. I had one that needed to retire. He was a little old, and when you're out and about, service dogs are not they're completely different from pets, and so the work environment on them ages them quickly.
Sure.
And
That's what my work environment does for me.
Exactly, moving a little slower.
Exactly.
And so you really need to kind of watch that and let the dog relax, so that I would never choose that, me or the dog, it would be me
Well.
that would go before the dog. But I noticed he was getting a little tired, so we went ahead and got Mitchell early on so that I wouldn't have a bad transition.
Yeah, good.
Preemptive.
And we've had some of the folks who do the dog training actually here on our show before, and some of those things. But I just want to make sure, Mitchell, I hope we haven't been
Mitchell,
too tough
come
on
here.
you today.
He is a sleepy boy.
There you go. It's all good. It's all good.
That's what he does. But when I need him, he's there.
Well, that's great. So my guests this morning, Ted and Amy Donaldson from Compass Quest Veterans Advocacy Group. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, so just stick around for our wrap-up.
I've had mammograms on the bus probably 12 to 15 times. It has been a lifesaver for me.
The quality of the reading is exactly the same. I will go back home tonight, download these images into the same computer system that the other images that they've been taking at the clinic today, and they'll all be read.
The earlier the better. Don't wait, don't put it off. Get started and do it every year.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for the morning for Faith in Our Hometown. I have to tell you, one of the things I love about our community is the fact that once we figure out that there's something that we should be caring about, most of the time, we do a pretty decent job of stepping forward and trying to meet those needs. And this morning's guests kind of reminded us of some of that, especially in terms of our brothers and sisters who've served in the armed forces and are now trying to come back and kind of reconnect themselves with society. Joplin's a good place to do that. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about what they've done to advocate folks moving to our area, services that they've got when they are here in the area. But for all of us and for all of you that are watching this morning, I just think for all of us in any of our communities, the people who care, it's just we need to continue to be sensitive. We talked about the fact that group sometime was unseen and we didn't know how to respond. But now we're seeing a little bit better, and so we're able to respond a little bit better. So let's just be watching out for one another. If we see somebody who needs some services, you can get in touch with Compass Quest. I'll give you a phone number real quick, 417-438-8387. One more time, 417-438-8387. Thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning for Faith in Our Hometown. I do hope that you'll come back and join us again next week. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.